saw that tweet, I literally thought to myself and said, who runs this Twitter? Gina Rodriguez? Is this Black Panther? Congrats, but when are we gonna get a Latino superhero movie kind of vibes? Brie T episode 14, take 1. This is actually take 5, but you know, we lie here. It's take 1. Hi everyone, welcome back to Brie T T V. As always, I'm your girl Brie, and I'm so happy to be back talking to you guys, sharing media stories, tips, tricks, whatever. I'm just happy to be back. July was a month where a lot of deals and reflection and media things were going on that I kind of really couldn't be in front of the camera. I launched my very first mini-series for my other channel, Brie T T V, which in the beginning of July, from July 1st to July 5th, I was producing a new episode every day and tying it all together to a 5-part mini-series. And then after all of that adrenaline, anxiety, and just all of the emotions that go into making something like that, I just needed to really reflect and kind of just look into the ins and outs behind the cameras of media stuff. Y'all know, y'all creatives, y'all know how life can be. But now I'm back. I'm also back with an actual schedule for August. Every Sunday this August, you'll get a new video starting today, August 2nd, all the way until August 30th. It's already mapped out, already pre-planned. I'm going to be having surgery this month, so July was like bulk filming for me, so everything can be pressed and ready to go. And I will put a calendar on Instagram at Brie T TV, our Instagram, showcasing what Sunday's episodes are going to be about, so you guys can kind of get an idea. You can leave me ideas on Instagram or here on YouTube, or if you want to submit anything to be featured in those upcoming episodes, feel free to do so. The episodes are already done, but there's still some cut and editing magic that can happen to make your voices be heard if you want to share anything about the topic we talk about. And with that being said, let's jump into today's video. Today's episode, I think, where's my phone? Oh, my phone's behind me. Okay. Today's episode comes to you barefaced, but also kind of boiling raged. Today's episode, Today's episode, we're going to be talking about anti-blackness and the erasure of Afro Latinx in the Latinx community, specifically in media. You can tell that from the title. So, if you haven't been paying attention, or awards season is just not something you care about, if you really don't care about white man's paperwork, and so you don't really give a shit about the big time awards like the Grammys and the Emmys and the Tonys, or the Oscars, then you might not have seen or, you know, really paid attention to the Emmy nominations. But if you did, the Emmy nominations this year for 2020 is a record-breaking year for the amount of black nominees that came out. The amount of black creatives that were nominated this year is the biggest number that we've seen ever, basically. And it is absolutely fucking amazing. It was one of the best moments 2020 had. I mean, 2020 hasn't had a lot of good moments, but this is up top tier, one of the best moments, especially as a black creator, to see they're finally recognizing, applauding, and giving credit to black creators, whether they're actors, actresses, writers, directors, producers, shows showcasing the diversity of black people. It's finally getting credit. They're finally getting credit, and it's long, long overdue. I filmed this video like 5 times trying to get the perfect wording, but you know, there's no such thing as perfect, so we're just gonna take it this way. So while it was a record-breaking year, it seemed like, so you think that we would get a chance to celebrate the fact that it's a record-breaking number of nominees, regardless if you pay attention to Emmys or you use Emmys and Oscars to rate whether a film or a piece of work is going to be anything great. The fact that a lot of these nominations went to black creatives is a really big deal. It shows that we're finally getting the recognition we actually deserve. Okay? But this is where my problem came in, because I was not happy with how others were reacting to the nominations. It was as if, and I don't know if this is a coincidence, it doesn't seem to be a coincidence, it can't be a coincidence if it's happened every single time, but it seems like every time the black community, whether it's because of black media, black culture, black music, gets up and gets amazing recognition, that there seems to be congratulations with a but. Right? When, like, let's take Parasite, for example. When Parasite won Best Film and Best Director, no one said, like, congratulations, but they were like, yo, that's so dope, like, you know, a film that wasn't even in English won an American award, you know, it shows diversity, it's showing progression, right? However, when you get a record-breaking number of black nominees, then all of a sudden you get these think pieces about how other groups are not being nominated, and it's like, congratulations to the black nominees, but congratulations to all of the ones who were nominated, but is it me, or is it can't be just a coincidence? And I don't feel like it's a coincidence because of the things that were being said. So, it wasn't even a day, okay, it wasn't even a day of these nominations being released. Haven't even marinated. I'm pretty sure the nominees, the actual individuals, were still in kind of shock and awe that they were even nominated. A lot of people take these things very seriously, especially when it's your craft. That all of a sudden, articles started being written about the underrepresentation or the lack of nominations given to Latinx actors, or Latinx creatives in general. And that is a valid reason. The numbers are shockingly low, but it's shockingly low for a lot of minorities. It's just the fact of the matter that the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars, and the Tonys, all of these big time awards, are heavily white. Hollywood was created when segregation and racism were legal. That's when it was, like, you know, legal to do these things and not frowned upon. It was actually heavily encouraged through the law and through actual society. And we don't, you know, no one pretended to be like, I'm above racism. Everybody was, like, showing their racism card, right? That's when Hollywood was created. So, yeah, the numbers are increasingly low for every minority group. But all of a sudden, these articles are being written that I don't ever remember being written every year after these nominations. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, there's not enough Latinx nominations, and there's not, well, it was really just the Latinx community, or not Latinx community, but Latinx media being thrusted into the limelight with these articles talking about there's not a lot of Latinx representation in this year's nominations. And at first I was like, okay, well, maybe they're just, you know, pointing out, you know, we still got work to do when it comes to, you know, equal representation in media. That's what I do. It's one of my driving passions with my career and with my skills. However, the wording they used, then the timing of it, and the people who were saying it, it just didn't sit right with me. All of a sudden, we're talking about percentages and how, you know, there's not enough nominations. And I remember seeing this one tweet by an author. I'm assuming he's an author. I've never heard this man's name before. It's Manuel Betancourt. Tweeted a list of actors, or it was like pictures of 5 actors, and I'll try to insert it if I find it. And saying, like, these actors are Latinx and they deserve recognition, and they weren't nominated for their respective roles. But the glaring problem was they're all white passing Latinx. And no one was talking about, you know, for example, MJ Rodriguez, an Afro Latinx trans actress who portrays Bianca on FX show Pose. How a lot, again, just like with Angelica, audiences believed MJ would be a runner-up, a contender for an Emmy nomination, as they should have been. I'm sorry, I don't know MJ's pronouns, so I'm going to use they, them, without trying to be disrespectful. But MJ, we all thought MJ was going to be recognized and getting an Emmy nom. But these think pieces we're not including people who looked like MJ. Not even, you know, just the bare minimum. They weren't including Afro Latinx actors or actresses or writers or creatives. It was white passing. And that really started to bother me, because it's just like, so those were the only 5 Latinx actresses and actors that deserved recognition this year? So Latinx actors and actresses and these authors started creating these think pieces and hopping on Twitter, and you had like She Is Dash, you know, at She Is Dash, you know, saying this tweet, you know, this John actor, don't know his last name off the top of my head, I would have to look it up, but I don't know this man from a can of paint, saying this. And then you have all these other authors like creating these think pieces, like all of a sudden it's these floods of like these authors creating the fact that the Emmys were snubbing Latinx nominations. And they're just getting louder and louder and louder. And their examples of the actors that were being snubbed all happen to be Latinx, white passing actors. Glossing over Afro Latinx actors of this year. Not only that, what really was the tip of the iceberg was this tweet. Let me get my phone, because I have to read it. I have to read it. I have to read it, because this is where I mean like the complete denial that, so when I said in the title, I feel like it was anti-black, it was just all of a sudden these think pieces are coming. All of a sudden these think pieces are coming when it's coincidentally the biggest year of the nominations for black creatives. It just, that's too, knowing the history of anti-blackness in the Latinx community, in Latinx media, in just, like I said, Latinx culture, all of a sudden, because black people are now being nominated, and like, let me break something down for you, in case you guys didn't know. You guys are creative. Some of you do, some of you don't. The people who run the Emmys and the Oscars, the Grammys, the Tonys, are a collective board of people. Usually they're not people of color at all. Black or people of color are rarely, I highly doubt they're on the board making these nomination decisions. However, it's also a business. All of these are like corporations, right? In 2020, right, the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement not only reapplied more pressure, it applied pressure because the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement started saying it's not just police, it's systemic racism, which means it's in your education, it's in your workplace, it's in your media, it's in how you nominate people, it's infused in Hollywood. And just like every corporation this year, you saw them pick a side. So while I think every black nominee for this year's 2020 Emmys deserved it? Absolutely, with every fiber in my being. Do I think the nominations were heavily influenced by the pressure that the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement had applied on these people? Absolutely, I do. Okay, it doesn't take a genius to see that the political climate, the social justice climate, influenced these nominations. It doesn't take a genius to see it. Not to say that none of those nominees, those black creatives, black actors, black actresses, don't deserve that nomination. Those nominations are long overdue. What I'm saying is the Emmys looked at the political climate and the social climate and said, you know what we're going to do? Nominate more black people. Because we see the pressure that the black community can apply and will apply to demand equal treatment. Okay? So it just, to me, isn't coincidental that all of a sudden it's the biggest year of nominations, and now, instead of congratulating these black nominees, instead of saying, yo, you see that? You see what the pressure does? Y'all, it's like these think pieces are like, well, what about, like, that's great, pick me. That's what I was kind of getting. It doesn't feel coincidental. It actually feels like it's very anti-black, and at the same time a vehicle to erase Afro Latinx. And I'm going to explain why I say erasure of Afro Latinx in the Latinx media. Because there was one tweet that really, it wasn't even just that Manuel Betancourt using the 5 pictures, using 5 white passing Latinx actors. It was this one tweet. And I think, in my personal opinion, the fact that it came from this place, like it was this Twitter account, cemented it. The official Twitter account of the Hispanic Caucus decided to retweet an article from the LA Times that were looking into the low numbers of Latinx nominations and Asian nominations in the Emmys, okay, from this year and years past. Now, I'm not really going to talk much about the article because, again, I just feel like regardless of how accurate the article was or how unbiased the article tried to be, the fact that that article had to pop up the same day that these nominations came out and it was the record-breaking nominations for black nominees, it still doesn't sit right with me. It really just truly doesn't sit right with me, because you couldn't even let the nominees get off the phone with their family and let their family know that they've been nominated for this great, achievement, for you to be typing up think pieces about what other, who didn't get nominated. You didn't even give them a day. But my biggest issues with the Hispanic Caucus tweeted from their official Twitter account, quote, and they're allegedly quoting this LA Times article, quote, and it's going to be right, it's going to be on the screen. There have been no Latino performers among the lead and supporting nominees in the last 5 years, end quote. They go on to say, the lack of Latino representation in film contributes to the misportrayal and the stereotyping of Latinos. This isn't just an Emmys issue, it's industry-wide. The quote they tweeted, first of all, the whole tweet's problematic, because I'm going to break down why I think the whole tweet is absolutely problematic. Now, this is the Hispanic Caucus, okay? Their official Twitter account. My problem with this tweet is it starts at the very first line. There have been no Latino performers among the lead and supporting nominees in the last 5 years. You know why it's problematic for me? Yeah, you want to know why? Afro Latino, a Dominican actor, Afro Latinx actor, Jharrel Jerome, won Best Lead in a limited series in 2019. Now, I know 2020 feels like a goddamn decade. I know it. It feels fast and it feels slow at the same damn time. It feels like, we've been living this year for a day, and then when you look back, you sit back and you're like, damn, it feels like I've been here for a good 30 years in my house. I get it. I absolutely get it. But that doesn't make it accurate. And the fact that this tweet from the Hispanic Caucus said there have been no Latino nominees for best leading and supporting roles in the last 5 years, when an Afro Latino won, a black Latino won for his role in When They See Us in 2019, is where I say that Latinx media were blatant in their erasure of Afro Latinx after these nominees came out. Because what did that tweet do from the Hispanic Caucus? Erase Jharrel Jerome. Right? When I saw that tweet, I literally thought to myself and said, who runs this Twitter? Gina Rodriguez? Is this Black Panther, congrats, but when are we gonna get a Latino superhero movie kind of vibes? Is this all girls can look up to her? This is for all girls. did she get a job at their Twitter internship? Because it sure as hell sounds like it. And this tweet stayed up for about 3 days. 3 days, right? This was when the whole shitstorm was coming out, and a lot of Afro Latinx people, along with Black Twitter, were calling stuff like this anti-Black. And a lot of Afro Latinx people on Twitter were, you know, including myself, saying like this erases us being Afro Latino, because the fact that this came from the Hispanic caucus's official Twitter, you left it up for 3 days. I scrolled underneath the tweet and I wasn't able to screenshot all of them because I was just enraged by what I was feeling. A lot of people were justifying so there were some people that were saying, well, what about Jarrell Jerome? He won. And people, because black and white, clear as day, it says, because no one clicks on the damn article, it says there have been no Latino leads. People were justifying the fact that Jarrell Jerome should no longer be considered Latinx. He should no longer be considered Afro-Latino. He should no longer be considered Latino. Why? I saw reasonings from he was born in the United States, so that's why he's not Afro-Latino. He doesn't play Latino characters, so he can't claim Afro-Latino. I saw all of these. And I believe, in my opinion, the fact that this tweet came from the Hispanic caucus allowed people to feel comfortable in showing their anti-Blackness. Allowed Latinx people to feel comfortable showing their anti-Blackness under this tweet. Well, when you click on the actual article from the LA Times, I was going to drag them in this video too. I mean, they should be dragged. You didn't need to write that article. You could have waited a week. Thank you very much. I clicked on the article, and the article actually said there had been no Latino nominees for leading and supporting roles in comedy or drama series. So they only looked at 2 categories. Why? Because Latinos were being nominated for every other category. And then the article also went down to explain, like, also the demographic numbers of Asian nominations in the Emmys. So not only the Hispanic caucus tweet this bullshit, they were misinformed. They were misinformed to their millions of followers, including their Afro Latinx demographic, thus creating very quickly an identity issue for many Afro Latinos. Now, I said I was going to break down why this tweet is problematic. The Hispanic caucus in the same tweet says the lack of Latino representation in film contributes to the misportrayal and stereotypes of Latinos. Don't they do that to black representation, right? Doesn't that happen to Asian representation? Don't you not you yourself, the Hispanic caucus, but doesn't our own media, our own Latino media run by Latinos do that? Right? White Hollywood found what sells for them. When it came to black people, they found that if you did gangbanger movies and we established that was the president as president, everybody was going to think that's how black people acted, right? Hollywood did the same thing to Latinos. They did the cartels and the drug dealers, and that's how you see them, right? And then you did Asians as samurais and, karate and, jiu-jitsu and, hand-to-hand combat, and that's how we see Asians. You're putting your demographic by white Hollywood. Isn't that what white Hollywood did to every single minority with representation? Every group has their stereotype that white Hollywood cemented. The misrepresentation and misportrayal and lack of representation is not exclusive to the Latino community at all. If you are not white, you have been misportrayed, misrepresented, and not represented at all. It is not exclusive. It's not an exclusive problem to the Latino community. As a Latino, I'm telling you, it's not an exclusive problem. Right? So then they go and say it's not an Emmy issue, it's an industry issue. It's true. So when are you gonna confront Telemundo? When are you gonna confront Univision? Because they make hella money off of like cartel shows. When are you gonna confront Telemundo and Univision and all of the Latino made media about their erasure of Afro Latinx, just like you did with this tweet? I guess you're not. Because it took you 3 days and millions of people telling you, listing. Because not only were people saying Jarrell Jerome won in 2019, he beat out another Latino for that win. So yes, the Hispanic caucus did eventually own up to their fuck up. And said, correction, we misquoted the tweet above and should have included 4 comedy or drama series. Original tweet did not acknowledge the historical Emmy win of Jarrell Jerome, first Dominican and Afro-Latino. We will continue fighting for representation in Hollywood for all Latinos. There's a cute apology. And that is something, that tweet is something you've seen pop up after all these other authors who are writing think pieces about the lack of Latino Latinx nominations this year, who got called out for the fact that they were not addressing or listing or recognizing that Afro Latinx potential nominees were also snubbed. When you're going to create a list under the call for unity and fair representation, your list needs to be fairly represented. Now, I'm not saying, right, I personally believe this was not a coincidence. I felt like this was just anti-blackness leapt out. And as someone who grew up with anti-blackness in their Latino family, it's very unprovoked when it leaps out. When they show anti-blackness, like, it's hella unprovoked. Like, you don't do anything, and all of a sudden, like, you're like, yo, you feel that way, for real? And to me, this was unprovoked. It was unprovoked. It was the year, and my thing is, like, no one sees it coming. My thing is also, you saw how long black audiences, but black media, black Hollywood was applying pressure. You saw how long they were fighting for this. You heard how vocal black actors and actresses are when they feel like they're snubbed. You hear it in their speeches. You hear it in their interviews. You hear it from the audiences. Black audience checks black media. Black audiences will be quick to tell black media, you're portraying colorism. You're portraying texturism. So how come Latinx media was so quick to cry out about the lack of nominations when I don't see you checking anti-blackness in your media, the erasure of Afro Latinx in your media? I don't see that. Where are you applying the pressure? Black audiences been said BET doesn't do it for them no more. Black audiences will call out Tyler Perry, even though Tyler Perry has the first black-owned entire production studio. Why? Because black audiences are still going to check someone and they're not going to let it go. I just feel like it's not coincidental because of how swift the outcry was. The little amount of congratulations I saw. Like I said, if I saw any congratulations from these think pieces or from these Latinx authors who were creating these think pieces to express their feelings about nominations, it was a congratulations to black nominees, but. And when you're congratulating someone, you don't end it in but. It's congratulations, period. Let them feel validated. Let them feel congratulated. Let them feel celebrated. And then you know what? Tomorrow you go out and you press next. Tomorrow you go out and you apply pressure. Tomorrow you go out and you demand recognition for your people. Do not drown out the celebration of one group because you aren't being heard. Celebrate with them. And then say, okay, we need y'all to help us be louder for us. And so, like, to see how that nomination, like, those nominations played out and how little congratulations were actually extended to the black nominees of 2020 was absolutely disheartening. It was absolutely disgusting. The fact that it was coming from Latino communities, like, you couldn't just be happy. You couldn't really just, like, clap your hands and then get back to work demanding your representation. And it looks too different. It looks different than what you did. And not y'all, you know, I'm not talking to you. But it looks different than what happened. When you congratulate someone, you let them feel congratulated. Like I said, congratulations doesn't end in but, it ends in period. You let them have their moment, you let them have their day, you let them have their week. It came in the middle of the fucking week. You couldn't wait until Monday to be like, oh, by the way, you know, acknowledge the historical. You couldn't type out tweets like, yes, this year was the best for black nominees. We need to try harder to make sure that black nominees this number stays the same. It gets higher, and it gets higher for Latinos, and it gets higher for Asians. You couldn't say that. You couldn't say, wait, like, you know what? We see y'all Black Hollywood. We gonna see y'all there next year. Y'all couldn't say something like that, right? No, like, and that's just what made me really mad. And it just, I think it was anti-blackness that leapt out. I think it was not a coincidence. If you think this was a coincidence, or I'm just reading too much into it, let me know in the comments down below. But I absolutely do not think that it was a coincidence. I think it was anti-blackness, and I think it's anti-blackness, and a lot of people don't realize it because anti-blackness is so embedded in us as a Latino community that we don't even realize it. I mean, I'm 23 and I'm now starting to look back on a lot of things in my childhood and now identifying that as anti-black with racial intentions. So I know that the amount of people that were saying those things didn't realize that it was coming off anti-black, or their timing was coming off anti-black, but like, it was the anti-blackness leapt out in this situation. Let me know your feelings down below, whether or not you agree or disagree. Keep it respectful. I was going to say keep it cute. Yes, keep it cute, keep it classy, keep it respectful. But let me know if you agree or disagree with me down below. Alright, and that's it for this episode of Brie T T V. As always, I'm your girl Brie. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you'll know exactly when we get a new video. But if you don't hit the bell notification, you can follow us on Instagram at Brie T TV, and you'll be kept up to date on anything that's going on with Brie T TV. And we'll see you back next Sunday, August 9th, and every Sunday after that for a new episode of Brie T TV. Like I said, I'm your girl, Brie, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.